Hello, it's Jim Games here once again, and in this video we are going to create this interaction icon that you can see when we can interact with something. It will show this arrow and this E key, and when we are near it but we cannot interact, you can see we only have this arrow. And when we interact with this, you can see what happens. I will show you. Like this. So when the door is moving, the E goes away and you can only see the arrow. So you can see that it is interactable, but it's not interactable currently. So yeah, let's get started. So what we want to do first is you want to go to the link in the description and you want to download this interact key icon and also interact arrow icon. Okay? Then you want to go back to your project and you want to go to the textures folder and you want to import those two files. Okay, now let's open the interact key icon and let's change the compression setting to user interface 2D and also the texture group to UI. Save and close, and also the interact arrow, let's do the same thing there. So UI and user interface. Save and close. Then what we want to do is we want to go to the blueprints and to the HUD folder, and we want to create a new widget blueprint, and type will be user widget, and this will be called W interaction icon. Okay, let's open it. And what we want to do here first is we want to add a canvas panel to the screen. After we have done that, we want to change this fill screen to custom, and let's change the width to 60 and height to 80, like that. Now what we want to do, we want to get an image. We want to move it to here, and we want to anchor it to the bottom middle part. Then we want to set the alignment to 0.5 on X and 1 on Y. Now let's set the position X and position Y to 0. And now the size, let's set it to 40 by 40, like this. Now on the image, we want to get the interact arrow icon, like that. And then we want to change the render opacity to 0.8. Okay? Then what we want to do, we want to get a border, and we want to also move it to here, map it to the bottom middle part, anchor. And now we want to set the alignment to 0.5 and 1 on the Y. And now position X and Y to 0. And now let's set the size X to 40 and Y to 40, like the other one also. Now let's go to the brush, and now let's select our interact key icon. Okay, now we want to rename this border to be key icon. Okay, and actually this image, which is the arrow icon, let's rename it to arrow icon. And now the key icon, let's also scroll down and set the render opacity to 0.8. And after that, what we want to do, we want to set this key icon set order to -1, so it's behind the arrow, like this. Okay, and now on the key icon, we also, actually we don't have to set it to there yet, so let's set it to 0 now, so it's here on the middle. Actually, let's set it to 1. Actually, it doesn't do anything. So 0. Now to the key icon, let's add a text. Let's move it to here. Let's set the justification to the middle, horizontal alignment to the center, align horizontally, center, align vertically, like this. Now let's set this text to E, or whatever is our interact key. Now this color, let's change it to black. Simple as that. And now what we can do, we can go back to the key icon and set the set order to -1. And actually, what I also want to do here, I want to set this text E name to be key button text. Now let's go to the key icon one more time. And what I actually think we should do here, let's actually set this render opacity to 0. Okay, like that. And now let's create the animations for these. So let's select our canvas panel. Let's create animation. Let's call this show. Okay. Let's click on that and let's add a track as when the canvas panel is selected. So it will add a canvas panel track. Here, let's add a render opacity. So here on the 0 mark, we want to set it to 0. Here on the 0.25, we want to set it to 1. Okay, so now it will look like this. It will fade everything on the canvas panel, or like get everything visible, or make them visible, you know. And now we can just duplicate this show, and we can call it hide. Now here on the 0 mark, let's set it to 1. And here on the 0.25, let's set it to 0. So it's the same thing, but now it will actually hide it. Okay, now let's create another animation. This animation will be called focus. And let's click on that. Now we want to select our key icon, and we want to add a track to the focus animation. And here, let's add a track. Let's add a render opacity, and let's also add a transform. And for the render opacity, what we want to do here, let's set it to be 0 here on the 0 mark, and on the 0.25, let's set it to be 1. Okay, and on the transform, let's go back to the 0 mark. On the transform, what we want to do, we want to get the translation, and we want to add a key on the transform, like this. Now, let's go to the 0.25, and let's change the Y value to -35, like that. Okay, so now what it will do is go like this. And then one more thing that we have to do with all this is we can close the key icon. And now we want to select our arrow icon. Okay, and add a track on that. And let's go to the 0 mark and add a transform track there. Okay, and here on the 0 we have the scale. Open the scale, and let's add a key to the scale. And now let's go to 0.25, and let's change the scale to like 0.6 and 0.6. Okay, you can play with the values. You can make them 0.7, 0.7, or whatever. Okay, now you can see how this looks. Okay, I think it looks pretty nice. Yeah, now we want to do the same thing, but like reverse. So let's duplicate this and let's call it unfocus, like this. Let's open the track. Now here on the 0 mark, let's first go to the arrow icon. So we want to set the scale X to be the same as on the other animation. So 0.6 on the Y and 0.6 on the 0.6 on the X and 0.6 on the Y. And now let's go to the end, and we want to set them to be 1, like before. Okay. Now we can close the arrow icon. We can open the key icon. And here on the start, we want to set the render opacity to 1. Here at the end, we want to set the render opacity to 0. Okay, and now on the translation, here on the start, we want to set it to -35. And here at the end, we want to set it to 0. Now you should see that it is working like backwards. See, it is going back behind that. Okay, so I think that is actually working correctly. So let's compile and let's save all. So let's go to the graph. Let's delete all these nodes and let's add or create a custom event. Let's call this custom event show hide. And let's add a input. Let's call it show. Now we want to add a branch. So B and left click. Align this. Let's actually move it here. And now what we want to do, we want to get the show animation to here. And also the hide animation to here. Now from the show, we want to play animation. And we don't actually have to change anything here. Now we can copy this play animation node. And we can connect it to the false. And now let's connect the hide animation to here. Sorry, to here. Okay. Compile and save. The next thing that we have to do is we want to create another custom event. And this custom event will be called set focus, like this. And let's add an input, and this will be called focus. Now let's also add a branch, so P and left click. The focus to the condition. Now we have to do a little bit different thing. So we want to get a sequence, so S and left click. Also sequence to around here. Let's connect true to here and false to here. Now from this 10, 0, let's get a do once node. Let's copy this node under here from the 10, 0. Now 10, 1 to the reset of the bottom one, and from the bottom one, 10, 1 to the reset of the top one. Simple as that. And actually I will make this a little bit more aligned. This a little bit downwards, maybe like this. Okay, and after that, what we have to do is we want to get the focus animation, and we want to get the unfocus animation, and we want to get from the focus animation, and we want to play animation, of course, like this, from the completed. So now it will only be able to play the focus animation after it has played this, and it cannot be played 2 times in a row, the same animation. Okay, play animation, and let's connect from here, and connect to here. Okay, compile and save. Now we can actually close this, I think. Now what we want to do, we want to go to the blueprints, and we want to actually go quickly to the interfaces. And here on the interactable interface, we want to create a new function that will be called set focus. Here, let's add a input, and it will be, of course, called focus. Okay, compile and save. We can close this now. Now let's go back to the blueprints and let's go to the interactable. We want to go to our door blueprint, and we can actually delete this test interactable. We don't need it anymore. Let's open the door blueprint class. Let's go to the viewport. Okay. And here, what I want to do now is I want to select the door, and I want to add widget. Okay. And here we want to select our widget class, which will be the W interaction icon. And then what we want to do is we want to set the pivot to be 0.5 and 1. And the space to set to screen, like that. Okay, and now let's rename this widget to interact icon. I think that's pretty good. Now when this is selected, what we want to do, we want to add a sphere collision, and this collision will be called interact, maybe interaction icon show collision, something like that. It doesn't matter. Now let's set the sphere radius to be like 100. Or if you have set your interact trace to be bigger, then you want to change this. But let's see. Compile and save. On our player blueprint, I can open it because we will need to open it later. Interaction range. It is set to 100. Okay, you want to set this sphere radius to the same value, like that. And now, let's go to the event graph. And now what we want to do, we want to add a begin play node here. And then we want to create a new function and call it begin play. Call it like begin play get refs. Okay, and let's go back to the event graph. Let's call that function on the begin play. Here on the begin play get refs, what we want to do, we want to get our interact icon. We want to get from it, and we want to get widget, if I can write, widget like this. And from the widget, we want to cast to W interaction icon, so we can access its variables and functions. Let's align these with select and Q. Now let's promote this to a variable. And this variable, let's call it interact icon widget ref. Let's create a category called ref, and let's put it there. Okay, compile and save. We can close this function now. And now what we want to do, we want to create a new graph. Let's call this graph interaction graph. Okay. Now here on the interaction graph, we want to create a... Actually, we want to select our interaction icon show collision. We want to scroll down, and on component begin overlap, let's create a node here. And from the other actor, let's cast to player character. Where is it? BP player character, yes. Now from here, we want to get our interaction icon widget ref. And we want to call the show hide this. And here we want to show when we overlap with the collision. Now we can copy this. And let's select our interaction icon show collision. Here on end overlap, what we want to do, we want to paste all this code. Actually, let's align it. Okay, other actor, let's connect to the object, and show, let's make it false. So we will hide it. Now also, under here, what we want to do, we want to go to the interfaces. Now we should have this set focus here that we created. Let's double click on that. And actually it created this on the event graph. So let's select this, copy it, delete it, and let's go to the interaction graph and let's paste it here. Now let's get the interact icon widget ref. And from here, let's set focus. This one. Target is W interaction icon. Now let's connect this focus to the focus of here, of this. Compile, save, and now let's go to the PP player character. I already have it opened here. And what we want to do here, we want to go to the interaction trace. Actually, I will close some of these functions. Interaction trace, yes. Here, after we break the hit result, what we want to do, we want to actually move all this a little bit further here. Actually, I think a lot further. Okay, because what we want to do, let's add a reroute here. Let's get from this, and let's get, if it's not equal, let's actually move this to the bottom bin. So control and move this. Okay, it didn't work correctly, but yeah, now Now we want to check if this is not equal with the interaction hit actor. So we are checking that if we are if this variable already is the same as the current hit actor. Now let's add a branch to here. Connect this to there. And here, if it is not equal, so it's new actor that we are trying to interact with, then we want to get the interaction hit actor ref, and we want to set focus like this and set it to false. So we are setting on the old interaction hit actor ref, we are setting on the old actor the focus to false. That. And from here we can connect it to here, and now we can get it from the hit actor and we can connect it to here. So we will first set the old one, the focus to false, and then we will promote it to a variable. Okay, like that. Then on the false, what we want to do is let's actually get the interaction hit actor ref again, and we want to get the can interact like this. We want to check if we can interact with it right now. Now we want to promote this to a can interact like this. And after that, we want to also get from this, and we want to set focus. Okay, let's align this. Okay, let's add a reroute there and align, and let's connect this to here. Simple as that. And the last thing that we actually want to do is we want to go all the way here. Let's actually move this can interact under here, and let's move all this a little bit closer. Okay, and now we want to get the interaction hit actor ref once more, and we want to set focus from here. Then let's add a reroute here, and let's also connect to here like that. And the focus that we want to set is by the can interact variable. Okay, simple as that. So what we are doing here, we're checking if the actor is same as the actor that we have hit before. If it is the same, so it's not equal false, it is the same, we want to check if we can interact with it. We want to set the variable, and we set the focus by the can interact variable. And if it's not the same, we will set the old focus to false, and we will continue with the code. And after everything here, we will just set the focus. Okay, now let's compile, let's save, and yeah, let's go to third-person map, and let's see what happens. Okay, this is lagging, and also I see some problems. Okay, one thing that I noticed here is we have set the interaction icon show collision sphere radius to 100, but it is now here the child of the interact icon. So let's put it to the default scene root. Let's attach it to there. Now let's set its size to 1, 1, and 1. As you can see. Now let's move it back to the interact icon. Now you can see it is the correct size. Okay, what I noticed is I have set the show animation and hide animation incorrectly. So our show animation is actually hide animation. So let's change it. Show, let's set the 0 mark to 0 and 0.25 to 1. Okay, now you can see it is coming like to the screen, so you can see it. Now on the hide, let's do the same thing. So from 1 on 0.25 to 0. I don't know how that happened, but happened. So compile and save. And also one thing that I noticed, let's unselect all the animations. Let's just click here. And let's select our canvas panel. Okay. We want to set our canvas panel render opacity to 0. Like that. Okay. And compile and save. Now I think it should work. So when we get close, you can see this thing here on the screen, and when we get close enough, you can see we can interact. Now we can't, now we can. But why is it fading away like that? I will have to try to fix that. It took me so long to find out this problem. So I would really appreciate if you could click that like button under the video. Thank you, and let's continue. So what I did was I added this show print string here on the begin overlap, and here on the end overlap I added this hide print string. And also on interaction icon show collision, I made it visible on the game. And when I did that and went to play, I noticed that when I come here to the collision and I rotate, it will play the show hide, show hide, show hide multiple times in a row. And that will make this widget glitch. And what was the problem was here on the PP player character. On our flashlight, you can see we have the block all dynamic collision preset enabled. That was the problem. It was trying to call the overlap, begin overlap and end overlap like multiple times. So we want to set this to no collisions. We only want to have collision on the character mesh and on the capsule component. Now when we compile and save and go to play, you can see here it will not do it anymore. And now it is working like it's supposed to work. When we go here, rotate back, it will still be there. Yeah. Okay, now that it's fixed, I think that was all for this video. So if you liked the video, please click the like button and subscribe for more. And yeah, hope you have a great day and see you on the next one. Bye.